Okay, let's conduct a thought experiment. In this experiment, Joe Blow is elected president in 2028 on a Democratic platform. He comes to power as a Bernie-style populist and rises from obscurity, overtaking the nomination due to pure charisma and political maneuvering. However, Joe is actually thinking far ahead of the scenario and has analyzed the current situation. United States hegemony has evaporated after a series of American military, economic, and diplomatic actions in South and Central America signaled a withdrawal from the global order. A year later, China blockades Taiwan and effectively takes control of the government. There is virtually no American or NATO response. Joe has taken power on a mandate to overturn Trump's destabilization of the global system. His plan to do this is to create a so-called super NATO, something akin to the United Nations in organization, but with the military and strategic guarantees of NATO. I want you to lay out in detail how such a super NATO could be organized, what kind of challenges you would run into, what kind of structures it could use, what kind of strategies could be used to rein in empires that are trying to assert a sphere of influence, for example, excluding them from the group or limiting membership for aggressive countries. I want you to thoroughly explore this idea, historical precedent, future prediction of both how it could work out or go wrong, and especially details about how different countries or regions would fit into the plan and unique challenges each region or country would face. Be as thorough as you can and lay out the whole scenario. Absolutely. Let's dive deep into this thought experiment. I'll break this down methodically, combining historical precedent, geopolitical theory, organizational design, and scenario analysis. I'll treat this as a full scenario planning exercise for Joe Blow's hypothetical Super NATO initiative. 1. Contextualizing the problem. Joe Blow rises as a Bernie-style populist, but with a strategic mind. The context. U.S. hegemony decline. A weakened post-Trump U.S. tech leaves a vacuum. Withdrawal from global intervention signals unreliability to allies. Chinese aggression. China asserts control over Taiwan with minimal pushback, signaling a lack of deterrence. Global instability. With the U.S. retreating, regional powers assert spheres of influence. Russia in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, India, Pakistan in South Asia, Iran in the Middle East, Brazil, Argentina in South America. Domestic mandate. Joe Blow's populist base wants a moral, democratic foreign policy, promoting peace, multilateralism, and rebuilding America's reputation. Joe wants a super NATO, a global cooperative structure that enforces norms, deters aggression, and provides strategic security guarantees, but on a more universal scale than the current NATO. 2. Conceptual framework for super NATO. 2.1 Core objectives. 1. Security guarantees. Like NATO, members must feel protected from aggression. 2. Global governance. A multilateral council with political and economic influence, akin to UN but with teeth. 3. Collective enforcement. Military, cyber, and economic tools to deter aggressive behavior. 4. Norm enforcement. Promote democratic governance, human rights, and non-aggressive foreign policies. 5. Flexible membership. Different tiers or statuses based on behavior, capabilities, and strategic alignment. 2.2 Organizational structure. A. General Assembly. All members represented equally, like the UN General Assembly. Debates and passes resolutions, but cannot override enforcement bodies. B. Security Council, executive body. A smaller, weighted council, similar to NATO plus UN Security Council hybrid. Permanent members, US, EU, Japan, India, Brazil. Rotating members, 5 to 10 regional representatives for 2-year terms. Powers, approve collective military interventions. Coordinate economic sanctions. Authorize cyber and intelligence operations. See military command structure, unified strategic command, possibly headquartered in a neutral location, Geneva or Nairobi. Regional commands, Asia-Pacific, to deter China or North Korea. Europe, deter Russia. Middle East, North Africa, stabilization and deterrence. Americas, regional coordination and disaster response. Rapid deployment forces, Super NATO Brigade with multinational command. D. Economic and diplomatic wing, oversees sanctions, trade restrictions, and aid programs to enforce norms. Could administer membership incentives, tech, trade, aid for alignment. E. Intelligence and cyber wing, shared intelligence infrastructure to detect aggression. Coordinated cyber defense. Dash 2.3 membership tiers. 1. Core members, democracies with strong militaries and global influence, US, EU, Japan, Australia, Canada, South Korea, India, have voting power on executive council and obligations for joint defense. 2. Associate members, countries with moderate capabilities or emerging democracies, Brazil, South Africa, Mexico, Indonesia, receive protection guarantees for a limited scope, participate in economic and intelligence sharing, but limited military obligations. 3. Observer conditional members, countries seeking membership but with some aggressive history, e.g., Russia, China, authoritarian states. Can attend discussions but no voting rights. Conditional path to full membership requires demonstrable behavioral change, like a reform probation period. 4. Excluded states, aggressive expansionists, or those with human rights abuses. Exclusion is a signal. These states face sanctions, economic exclusion, or even coordinated isolation. 2.4 Membership enforcement and norms, mechanisms to rein aggression. 1. Exclusion or conditional membership. Aggressive powers cannot join or can only join as observers. 2. Economic sanctions. Jointly coordinated sanctions. Super NATO could coordinate trade, investment, and tech access restrictions. 3. Collective military posture. Threat of intervention or defense of threatened states as a deterrent. 4. Reputation diplomacy. Global media campaigns to pressure countries that violate norms. 3. Historical precedents and lessons. NATO 1949 present. Success. Collective security deterrent against USSR. Member solidarity. Weakness. Limited scope. US-dominated struggles with asymmetric threats. United Nations 1945 present. Success. Universal legitimacy. Norms enforcement. Mediation. Weakness. Enforcement is weak. Security Council deadlocks with vetoes. Coalitions of the Willing 2003 Iraq. Demonstrates risk of unilateralism masquerading as multilateralism, loses legitimacy if members feel coerced. ASEAN African Union, regional examples of multilateral organizations with conditional security frameworks. Strength, regional focus, soft power enforcement. Weakness, consensus-based, slow to act militarily. Lesson, Super NATO must balance legitimacy, broad participation with effectiveness, ability to act quickly. 4. Regional considerations. 4.1 Europe. Threat, Russia, hybrid warfare, energy blackmail. Challenges, coordination among EU-NATO members, historical reluctance for extended deployments outside Europe. Opportunities, shared history of cooperation. Existing NATO framework can be upgraded into Super NATO Regional Command. 4.2 Asia-Pacific. Threat, China in Taiwan, South China Sea, North Korea. Challenges, China is a major economic player. US may be overstretched. Regional states, ASEAN, may fear retaliation. Opportunities. Japan, Australia, India could form a regional rapid deployment corps. Taiwan could be integrated indirectly as a protected territory. 4.3 Middle East. Threat. Iran, regional proxy wars, failed states. Challenges. Fragmentation, sectarianism, resistance to outside powers. Opportunities. Partnering with moderate Arab states for stabilization missions. Use economic incentives to reduce aggression. 4.4 Africa. Threat, weak states, resource conflicts, insurgencies. Challenges, poor infrastructure, diverse political systems. Opportunities, AU coordination, targeted rapid response units. Investment for development could double as a soft power lever. 4.5 Americas. Threat, Brazil-Argentina spheres, Venezuela instability. Challenges, anti-interventionist culture. Populist governments may resist external constraints. Opportunities, US-led security umbrella to prevent regional wars. Economic development programs could reinforce stability. 5. Challenges and risks. 1. Political will. Even populist leaders like Joe Blow must persuade domestic constituencies to fund overseas operations. Coalition cohesion. Free riding by smaller members is a risk. 2. Military overstretch. Global deployments require enormous logistics. Risk of US being back in NATO 2.0 trap. 3. Economic retaliation. Aggressive powers like China or Russia may use trade, finance, or cyber warfare as counters. 4. Legitimacy. Overly aggressive enforcement may be viewed as neo-colonialism, undermining moral credibility. 5. Veto or deadlock. If a permanent member disagrees, e.g., India has different strategic priorities than US or EU, interventions could be blocked. 6. Proxy escalation. Excluding aggressive states might push them into regional blocs, increasing tension, e.g., China-Russia alliance. 7. Internal governance. Coordination between military, Economic and intelligence wings requires unprecedented bureaucratic agility. Number 6. Strategies for success. Phased membership. Begin with like-minded democracies. Slowly expand to emerging powers, conditional on compliance. 2. Regional autonomy. Give each region authority to handle threats under the global Super NATO umbrella. 3. Economic leverage. Tie membership or cooperation to access to technology, trade, and aid. 4. Rapid response units. Maintain small, professional, highly mobile forces able to deter aggression without large-scale wars. 5. Norm-based deterrence. Use legal, diplomatic, and economic penalties to constrain aggressive actors. Combine with intelligence sharing for proactive threat monitoring. 6. Soft power. Public diplomacy campaigns, humanitarian missions, and tech cooperation to enhance legitimacy. Number 7. Scenario predictions. Best case, Super NATO stabilizes key regions, deters China, Russia, and prevents local wars. Democratic norms spread. New global order emerges with shared rules. Expected case, partial success. Regional security improves, but conflicts still flare in areas of low membership coverage, e.g. Africa, Middle East. Aggressive powers may challenge membership norms, forcing careful balancing acts. Worst case, aggressive powers, China, Russia, form rival bloc. Super NATO becomes bogged down in bureaucracy. U.S. overstretched. Populist backing erodes domestically. Proxy wars and economic disruption could worsen instability. There are 8. Concluding assessment. A super NATO under Joe Blow is theoretically possible, but extremely ambitious. Feasibility. Requires U.S. reassertion of credibility, massive coordination, and strong domestic and allied commitment. Core advantage combines NATO's deterrent power with UN's legitimacy. Main risk. Overextension and escalation with excluded aggressive powers. Key insight. Success hinges not just on military might, but on diplomatic, economic, and legitimacy levers. A true soft-hard power hybrid. If you want, I can map a hypothetical membership and command structure for 2040, including which countries are core, associate, conditional, or excluded, and what regional rapid deployment forces would look like in a super NATO world. That would turn this into a fully fleshed out blueprint scenario. Do you want me to do that next? Go ahead and map a hypothetical membership and command structure for 2040. Including which countries are core, associate, conditional, or excluded, and what regional rapid deployment forces would look like in a super NATO world. That would turn this into a fully fleshed out blueprint scenario. Perfect. Let's take this step by step and map out a detailed 2040 super NATO scenario, including membership tiers, command structure, and rapid deployment forces by region. I'll base this on likely geopolitical trends, historical trajectories, and strategic logic from the thought experiment. Super NATO 2040 Blueprint Scenario. 1. Membership tiers. Tier, countries, role and obligations. Strategic notes. Core members. United States, European Union, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, Netherlands, Scandinavia collectively represented, Japan, South Korea, Australia, Canada, India. Full voting rights in the Executive Council. Obligated to contribute forces, funding, intelligence, participate in global and regional rapid deployment units. Democracies with robust military-industrial bases. India included for Indo-Pacific strategic weight. Core members form the backbone of collective deterrence. Associate members. Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Thailand, Chile, Argentina. Limited voting rights, regional security obligations, economic and intelligence cooperation. Can participate in rapid deployment units with core guidance. Regional powers with moderate military capabilities. Benefit from protection guarantees and access to tech aid. Conditional members. Turkey, Egypt, Nigeria, Philippines, Pakistan, Vietnam, observer status in councils, potential to earn full membership via reforms and behavioral commitments. Limited access to rapid deployment planning. States with mixed records or aggressive tendencies. Encourages reform, creates incentive alignment. Excluded states, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, Belarus, Myanmar. No voting, no access to tech or aid, targeted economic sanctions, coordinated diplomatic isolation. Major global aggressors. Super NATO focuses on containment, deterrence, and regional counterbalancing. Open quote. Note, membership is flexible. Conditional members can graduate to associate core tiers after demonstrating compliance with Super NATO norms over 5 to 10 years. Excluded states may remain forever excluded unless regime or policy changes occur. Close quote. 2. Command and governance structure. A. Global headquarters. Location, Geneva. Neutral international legitimacy. Functions, Executive Council, Intelligence Coordination, Strategic Planning, Sanctions and Economic Policy. B. Executive Council, permanent voting members, US, EU, Japan, India, Australia. Rotating members, 2-year term, 5 to 10 regional reps from associate members. Responsibilities, authorize military interventions, approve sanctions or diplomatic initiatives, coordinate rapid deployment forces globally. C. Regional commands, Region HQ, responsibilities, notable assets. Asia Pacific, Europe and North Atlantic, Brussels. Deter Russia, stabilize Eastern Europe, manage hybrid warfare. 150K Multinational Rapid Reaction Corps, cyber defense units in Estonia and Finland. Asia Pacific, Singapore, contain China's expansion, protect Taiwan indirectly, monitor North Korea. 100 rapid deployment troops, naval task force led by Japan and Australia, integrated early warning and surveillance, Middle East and North Africa, Abu Dhabi, counter. Iran destabilization, coordinate peacekeeping, support moderate regimes, 50K rapid deployment troops, special forces from Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Egypt, rapid logistics network for humanitarian operations. Americas, Washington, D.C., protect hemisphere security, manage Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina contingencies, disaster response. 80K multinational rapid deployment troops, strategic airlift from U.S. and Canada, naval units in Caribbean and South America, Africa, Sub-Saharan, Nairobi. Prevent regional conflicts, support humanitarian missions, fight insurgencies. 40K rapid deployment troops, logistical hubs in South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria. AU integration. Open quote. Each regional command has autonomy to respond to threats within its area of responsibility, but reports to Global HQ for large-scale or cross-region operations. Close quote. 3. Rapid Deployment Forces, RDF. Global concept, highly mobile, multinational units capable of responding to crises within 48 to 72 hours. Size and composition by region, approximate. Region, troop strength, composition key capabilities. Highly mobile, Europe, 150,000. Mechanized infantry, armored brigades, cyber units, air support. Counter Russia, hybrid warfare, nuclear response readiness. Asia Pacific, 100,000. Naval infantry, Air Force rapid response, cyber and space monitoring. Taiwan contingency, South China Sea protection, disaster response. Middle East, 50,000. Light infantry, special forces, logistics and med units. Iran deterrence, peacekeeping, urban combat expertise. Americas, 80,000. Mechanized units, rapid airlift brigades, naval support. Hemisphere security, Venezuela, Brazil contingencies, disaster response. Africa, 40,000. Light infantry, medevac and engineering units, AU liaison, counterinsurgency, humanitarian aid, resource conflict stabilization. Open quote. Integrated command concept. RDFs are multinational, with officers from at least 3 different countries per brigade. This ensures shared responsibility, reduces unilateral action, and improves legitimacy. Close quote. Shop 4. Additional strategic components. A. Intelligence and cyber coordination. Global Intelligence Center shares satellite, cyber, and human intelligence. Cyber Defense Network protects critical infrastructure of all members, coordinates offensive operations in extreme cases. B. Economic and diplomatic levers. Sanctions Coordination Center, unified economic response to aggressive actions. Trade and aid incentives, membership and compliance tied to access to tech markets and development aid. C. Norm enforcement, behavioral audits, conditional and associate members monitored annually. Graduation demotion system, rewards compliance, isolates aggressive states. Public diplomacy, media campaigns, global messaging to maintain legitimacy. Number 5, regional challenges in 2040. Region challenges mitigation strategies. Europe, Russia aggression and hybrid warfare. Pre-positioned rapid response, cyber defenses, nuclear deterrence coordination. Asia Pacific, China's technological, economic, and military dominance. Integrated naval task forces, strategic partnerships with India, Japan, Australia. Middle East, proxy conflicts, insurgencies, special forces and logistics rapid deployment, local partner states, intelligence-led interventions. Americas, populist nationalism in Brazil, Argentina. Economic incentives, hemispheric disaster security missions, democratic norms promotion. Africa, weak states, insurgency, resource conflicts. AU cooperation, small but mobile RDF, infrastructure and humanitarian support. 6. Possible strategic outcomes by 2040. Best case, Super NATO deters major aggressors. Global democratic norms strengthen. Regional conflicts minimized via preemptive intervention and economic integration. Expected case, limited successes, Europe and Asia Pacific stable, Middle East and Africa partially stabilized. Rival blocs exist, China-Russia, possibly Iran-centric coalition, but containment works through sanctions and limited military operations. Worst case, overextension and bureaucratic complexity bog down responses. Aggressive powers form strong counterblock. Proxy conflicts escalate into broader wars. Domestic support in core countries wanes. The 7. Visual summary, simplified. Core members, US, EU, Japan, South Korea, India, Australia, Canada, Global Executive Council. Associate members, Brazil, Mexico, South Africa, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, UAE. Regional roles, conditional members, Turkey, Pakistan, Egypt, Nigeria. Observer probation, excluded members, China, Russia, North Korea, Iran. Containment RDFs, Europe, 150K, Asia Pacific, Americas, 80K, Middle East, 50K, Africa, 40K. HQ, Geneva, regional commands in Brussels, Singapore, Abu Dhabi, Washington, D.C., Nairobi. If you want, I can take this one step further and map out a 2040 Super NATO operational map showing which countries' forces are pooled where, pre-positioned bases, key strategic choke points, and likely flashpoints for intervention. That would turn this into a fully fleshed out military strategic scenario. Do you want me to do that next? Theorize on how successful a strategy Super NATO is for restoring global norms and stopping the breakdown of world order into spheres of influence. Come up with as many other good strategies you can think of to do the same thing and compare them with Super NATO as to how effective they are. Below is a strategic theory comparison, not advocacy. I'll treat this like a policy planning memo. How effective is Super NATO at restoring global norms and preventing a world of spheres of influence, and what alternative grand strategies could plausibly compete with or outperform it? I'll proceed in 5 layers. 1. What problem we're actually trying to solve. 2. How Super NATO performs against that problem. 3. Failure modes of Super NATO. 4. Alternative strategies, many, not just one. 5. Comparative evaluation matrix. 6. Synthesis. What actually works best in the real world? 1. What problem are we solving precisely? The breakdown of world order into spheres of influence occurs when no actor can credibly enforce global rules. Great powers believe force is cheaper than restraint. Middle powers hedge rather than commit. Smaller states align with the nearest coercive hegemon. Norms lose enforcement credibility. So the core problem is credibility, not morality. Open quote, world order collapses when rules are not backed by believable consequences. Close quote. Any strategy must therefore restore predictable costs for aggression, reduce incentives for territorial revisionism, prevent regional hegemons from dominating neighbors, offer smaller states a better deal than submission. NAR 2, how effective is Super NATO? Core strengths. 2.1, deterrence power. High Super NATO's biggest strength is credible deterrence. Unified military guarantees raise the cost of aggression. Multinational command reduces unilateral escalation. Shared intelligence closes gray zone ambiguity. Rapid deployment forces shorten response time. Effect: aggressors must plan for collective retaliation, not bilateral fights. This is historically proven. NATO deterred Soviet invasion of Western Europe for 45 years. Even partial NATO expansion constrained Russian options. 2.2 Norm enforcement. Moderate high. Super NATO enforces norms selectively but meaningfully. Membership conditionality equals behavioral incentives. Economic access tied to compliance. Exclusion becomes costly, not symbolic. This avoids the UN problem. No universal veto deadlock. Fewer members, more cohesion. 2.3 Global buy-in. Moderate. Here is the trade-off. Democracies and middle powers likely buy in. Non-aligned states remain skeptical. Authoritarian states see it as encirclement. Super NATO restores order among participants, not universally. 2.4 Sustainability. Moderate. Super NATO demands long-term funding, domestic political discipline, burden-sharing compliance. Populist fatigue is a real risk. Overall effectiveness of Super NATO, high for deterrence, moderate for norm restoration, fragile politically. It slows fragmentation dramatically, but does not eliminate spheres of influence entirely. Number 3. Failure modes of Super NATO. Understanding where it breaks is crucial. 3.1 Block consolidation. Super NATO may accelerate rival bloc formation. China-Russia-Iran axis hardens. World splits into fortified camps. Neutral space shrinks. This doesn't eliminate spheres. It formalizes them. 3.2 Overextension. Global commitments risk. Crisis overload. Slow decision-making. Legitimacy erosion if interventions fail. 3.3 Legitimacy gap. Outside the bloc, seen as Western Order 2.0, accusations of hypocrisy persist. Global South ambivalence remains. Muster 4. Alternative strategies to prevent spheres of influence. Below are distinct strategic models, not variations of the same idea. Strategy A. Global economic interdependence lock-in. Core idea. Make territorial conquest economically irrational. Mechanisms. Deep supply chain integration. Irreversible technological interdependence. Financial system entanglement, shared infrastructure ownership, historical precedent, EU coal and steel community, post-war globalization, partial success, effectiveness, high in peacetime, low once conflict begins, fatal weakness, interdependence can be weaponized, autocracies accept economic pain for strategic gain. Result, prevents conflict until it doesn't, then collapses fast. Strategy B, Concert of Great Powers 2.0, core idea. Formalize spheres of influence explicitly to prevent war. Great powers negotiate red lines. Smaller states become buffers. Stability over justice. Historical precedent. Concert of Europe, 1815 to 1914. Cold War détente. Effectiveness. High short-term stability. Low moral legitimacy. Eventually breaks. Fatal weakness. Smaller states lose agency. Revisionist powers cheat. Frozen conflicts accumulate pressure. Result, manages decline but locks injustice into the system. Strategy C, global neutrality, shielding, core idea. Protect non-aligned states through guaranteed neutrality. Finland, Austria model at scale. Multilateral guarantees of non-alignment. No basing, no alliances, no coercion. Effectiveness, moderate. Works for geographically lucky states. Fatal weakness, requires aggressor buy-in. Fails if norms already broken. Result, reduces conflict zones but doesn't stop hegemonic expansion. Strategy D, technological deterrence dominance. Core idea, make aggression technologically suicidal. Space dominance, cyber supremacy, AI-enabled early warning, missile defense saturation. Effectiveness, very high deterrence, low political legitimacy. Fatal weakness, arms race acceleration. Escalation instability, authoritarian tech leapfrogging. Result, stability through fear, not norms. Strategy E, Global Democratic Federation, hard mode. Core idea, build a supranational democratic authority, shared sovereignty, binding global law, unified enforcement. Effectiveness, extremely high if achieved, extremely unlikely. Fatal weakness, political infeasibility, cultural resistance, national sovereignty backlash. Result, ideal solution, unrealistic timeline. Strategy F, layered hybrid system, most realistic. Core idea, combine multiple imperfect tools. Super NATO for security, economic integration for incentives, regional autonomy frameworks, selective great power diplomacy, technological deterrence as backstop. This is how durable orders actually emerge. NAR 5, comparative effectiveness matrix, strategy, stops spheres, restores norms, durable, risk, riv great power diplomacy. Super NATO, high block, moderate high, moderate, block polarization. Economic lock-in, moderate, low moderate, low, weaponization, great power concert, moderate, low moderate, moral collapse, neutrality, shielding, low moderate, low, easy violation, tech dominance, high, low, moderate, arms race, democratic federation, very high, high, unrealistic, hybrid system, high, highest complexities. Final synthesis, is Super NATO the best strategy? Short answer, Super NATO is necessary but not sufficient. Longer answer, Super NATO is the best available security anchor. It restores credible deterrence. It slows the collapse into spheres, but alone, it cannot fully restore global norms. The most successful path is, open quote, Super NATO as the spine of a layered global order, not the whole body. Close quote. Security enables diplomacy. Deterrence enables norms. Stability enables legitimacy. Without Super NATO, other strategies fail faster. With Super NATO alone, order remains brittle. Bottom line, judgment, if Joe Blow's goal is prevent a world of brute force spheres of influence, restore predictable rules, avoid global war. Then, Super NATO is the single most effective first move, but only a hybrid strategy can make it endure. If you want, next we can stress test Super NATO against a specific crisis Baltics, Taiwan 2035, Middle East collapse. Model what happens if a major core member defects. Explore whether Super NATO unintentionally creates a new kind of empire. Just tell me which direction you want to go.